Extractors, and welcome back to the South Main Auto channel. So our last video we put out a couple videos ago, I guess, on the extracting the broken brake bleeder, there was a lot of questions concerning what type of extractor I used and some concerns with it, you know, particularly about me heating it and, you know, stuff like that, to the point where I can't really go through and just answer all the questions because I don't have that kind of time. But what I thought I could do is show you some tools that I use here in the shop. Obviously we have a lot of experience with removing broken fasteners because everything here is rusty crap. So the best I can do in response to that video and the questions that were asked is show you what I use. Seemed to be the simplest method I could come up with. So we'll start right out first with the ones I used in the video. Now, these ones are actually a snap-on, like a C47B, I guess it is. These, I guess, would be considered like a straight flute extractor. We'll look at one of the bigger ones. This is what they look like. So they've got that little twist on the end of them. These I do like. I use these often, and it's a little four-piece set. So I would assume any type of straight flute type extractor would work. As a matter of fact, I'll take a look, see if we can throw some in our Amazon store, and I'll put little links down below to ones that are similar. So this is the one that we used in the brake bleeder video. Get that to focus on there. And you can see this one's been used quite a bit. It's actually starting to straighten out. Probably due to the heat. A lot of viewers mentioned that it would anneal it and soften the metal, which honestly, in my opinion, I really don't care that it does, because typically when I use these, I just trade them in and get new ones. That's kind of the beauty of having the snap-on ones. So I am pretty abusive of these, but in most cases, when you're using an extractor, you're going to be abusive to it. So these are my favorite. My second favorite that I like to use are these ones here. I've had this kit for quite a while. They're also snap-on or Blue Point, I guess it would be. I doubt that they make these because I've seen this kit in many other types, but it's got a little instruction paper there. But that's the style here, okay? So these are quite similar. So you've got the corresponding drill bit with each type of extractor. These little things here are apparently like drill guides. If your bolt is recessed in a hole, you can use one of these guides to stick in the hole and then run your drill bit through it to kind of help you get it centered. And we'll just look at the bigger one here. Let's pop this guy out. So essentially with these, you just drill a hole. Now these have been around a long time. You drill a hole, and these have flutes, cut on each side of them. There's 6 flutes total, it looks like. They don't stick up a lot, but enough to grip. So you drill the hole. It has to be the correct size drill bit, which, with these here, they're a little more lenient because they're tapered. These are pretty precise to the size of the hole. And then you take and just smash this down in the hole, and then it has a an adapter that goes on it that is also the same number of flutes as this tool. And you stick it on it, and then you use a wrench or socket or whatever to get that out. So these say rigid on them, so they're probably made by Rigid. Anyhow, so that's this style extractor. Pros and cons of these: if the hole slips with this, you just beat it in further, it grabs again, and away you go. The hole slips with this tool is no longer good. In the sense that you bash this down in the hole, it strips it out because you're heating it, or the fastener won't come loose. Now you're kind of boned if these are all you have and you're already at your biggest size. The reason I like straight flute style extractors is because they don't tend to expand the bolt in the hole. And by that I mean like this style extractor here. So these are tapered, and they're forgiving because if it does start to strip, you smash it down in further. But they have a reverse spiral on them. So when it's in the hole and you're trying to remove it, the tool itself is trying to drive into the hole deeper. And I believe at the same time, it's also putting, a counter force on the broken fastener and essentially kind of making it tighter. You know, it's wedging the threads out, you know, creating more friction. Now that's just my theory, but I've had limited success with this style extractor. Now I have this one and I have this one here. I've got these two sizes here. These are fantastic for broken spark plugs. You know, stuff around here gets so rotted that I've seen like old V8s, like old 318 Chryslers and 360s, and you know, 5-liter Fords and the whatever they were, the 5.8s, you know, the older stuff, where the spark plug would actually, you know, the metal portion of it would rust, and you'd get on there with a socket, you turn it, that breaks off, the whole porcelain and everything comes out, and all that's left inside the hole is just the metal threads. This was my go-to for that, and it's my habit with those. I go in there with a brazen tip, I heat them up, all the rust breaks away, because the rust is really what's pinching it. It's really not stuck in the threads. Once that breaks away, smash this in there, and out she comes. So that's that, and then I've got a whole other set that's very similar to those. I'm actually missing one. And you know, you can see that those are a reverse style thread, or reverse style spiral flute, whatever you want to call it. These, where I'll use these a lot is, let's see, like differential drain plugs, you know, something that's already a pipe thread. Use them a lot on that. I'm trying to think what else. I don't use those a ton. Of course, I've had this set for a very long time. This is a max set. I have no idea what number it is. These style extractors are quite popular. They're tapered, a little forgiving. They do have the drill size on them, what you're supposed to drill them out with. Like that one's supposed to be a 5/32 drill. You beat it in, away you go. But again, it's my experience that they're semi counterproductive in the sense that they, you know, try to put a little outward pressure on what you're removing. Of course, usually what you're removing is already stuck, and you know, you don't need to have something hinder you a little bit. And then another great extractor is probably what everybody has in the shop, is your common Torx bit. These work great. These ones are Mac. They're not meant to be extractors, but they work good for extractors. Because just like the straight flute ones, you drill a hole, you smash one of these babies down in, you know, they've got the, you know, the 6 flutes on them, and they grab. Of course, usually you gotta, you know, send them in for warranty after that, but no big deal. It is a method I use, and it's something that actually works. So you gotta think outside the box of those. If you're not into abusing your tools, then you know that's probably not for you. But I essentially just do whatever works. As far as drilling holes, I do buy the Mac Tools drill bits simply because they're lifetime warranty on every size. And I go through lots of drill bits, and I always buy Cobalts, and they work really well. So this is one of my favorite drill sets. These are stubby drills, so these things are really short in comparison to one that's really long. So these are nice for getting in tight spots. So that's a 3/8 bit. They only go up to a 3/8 set. They're super sharp, and you know, you get it chucked up in your drill, then you've only got, you know, 1.5 inches sticking out. And if you're doing like exhaust manifold bolts on Chevys, you know, the 4/8s, 5/3s, 6/0s, that back bolt on the driver's side, you know, you can get right back in there with this on a 90-degree drill, and you've only got this much sticking out. And that's what I often will use on those, and I'm missing one of them too. We'll have to stick these out so the Mac guy can fill them back up for us. And then in my longer bits, you know, again, I use, you know, these Mac bits here, like I say, just because they are lifetime warranty. And I'm missing one there too. Good thing I'm showing you guys. Leave all these out. I do have another set of bits. Let's see something about that, because a couple people mentioned why didn't I use a left-handed drill bit. So I do have, you know, a set of left-handed drill bits, obviously, and these are short too, and they're left-handed, so you use the drill in reverse. Now I do use these, but usually only in special situations. For example, like, you know, we mentioned exhaust manifold bolts, so like your Fords, you know, the 4.6s, the 5.4s, the heads of the bolts break off. The bolt is not, you know, stripped or stuck in the cylinder head. you know, as a result of corrosion, usually the manifolds get all crusty and then the heads pop off the studs. Well, what happens if you go in there with a regular drill bit, you know, you center it, you go to drill it, and all of a sudden your drill catches and spins that stud all the way to the bottom of the hole, which is not a huge deal. But the reason you use a left-handed drill bit, and the only reason you use it, is for the, you know, the circumstance like that where the bolt's not seized, it's not cross-threaded, it's not, you know, rusted in. You use the left-handed drill bit in hopes that it will snag and just spin it out. To be honest with you, it doesn't happen very often. The only time I can think of it is on the Ford heads, where the studs typically come out really easy anyways, even when they are broke. I'll use these. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll pilot it with a small one, and then I just jump right up and grab, like, you know, this 1/4 inch bit, because naturally it's gonna grab and snag. But you better make darn sure you got your first hole, your center hole. You better make it perfect, because if it doesn't snag, you know, now you're going back to, you know, alternative methods to get it out. But other than that, I mean, you don't have to use a left-handed bit to get out a broken bolt. So I know some people are really, you know, infatuated with these. Like, you know, if you're drilling out a bolt, you got to use a left-handed bit, but it's only helpful if the bolt's already loose. So there's that. I guess that's all my extractors, you know, short of the welder. Of course, you guys have seen some of the videos where I often will take a nut and weld a nut, or weld a flat washer and then weld a nut, you know, and extract a bolt that way. And that's typically what I do on GM exhaust manifolds, because the people at GM Loctited their manifold bolts in, and on those you got to put a little heat on them. So, you know, I mentioned the 6.0 Chevys and the 5.3s and the 4.8s where they break the driver's side rear bolt on the head. Those, I get right up in there. I just use, you know, a lot of times I'll just use this flexi magnet, stick a 5/16 nut on there, you know, hold it right up by the hole, even if it's recessed. Fry it on there with the welder. As soon as it cools, spin it out. You know, it's simple as that. And there's no real screwing around. Some of my favorite drills that I use for drilling out, I've got this little Mac Tools. I guess there's the number on it. You know, for what that's worth, it's probably made by IR. It's a 90-degree drill. It's high speed. The thing is obscene. I don't know how many RPMs it is. 1200. So it's really high speed. It does have a reverse button on it. You can lock it on the front. So this is really nice for getting into tight areas. Let me get a tape measure. This will get you into just about anything. So yeah, it's four inches, you know, to the end of the head, you know, working space, you know, from back here to the front of the head, and then you use those stubby bits and they go in quite a ways. So this will usually get you out of a jam. And then just my regular low speed one here. I don't know what the number is, AD 590 maybe. Like I say, this is probably IR. I don't know who makes them, but this one's made by, you know, it's got Mac logo on it. But this is nice, low speed, 1/2 inch chuck. Personal preference, I do not like drills that have the reverser knob on the back or on the back side of the handle. I like them to be on the side, simply because, you know, when you're trying to get in on something and you're pushing, it's not, you know, cutting into the web of your hand. I don't know if I have any drills like that, probably not. No, all mine got the reverser switch on the side, which I like. I do know that Mac makes some with it back here, and it's a terrible design. Because this here you can get on, you know, you have a better tendency to, you know, push straight and use it like that. So I guess that's it, guys. That's my extractors. I don't have a ton of different ones, but I do have some favorite ones, and they're going to be the straight fluted style, whether it's this one here, or your standard Torx bit. So I hope that answers the questions there. You know, of course, the torch. Best friend. We use that a lot. Pretty handy with the torch. Sometimes on cast iron heads, if I get some, particularly when, you know, working on big trucks, working on some of the CAT engines where they always broke off in the head, I would often just blow the bolt out with the torch. You got about one chance to do that and do that right. Otherwise, you got to let it cool all the way down. It's just like cutting a nut off a stud. You know, you can take the nut, and I think I've showed that in other videos, where we did the Ford exhaust manifolds. I think I showed how you can just take like your brazing tip, you know, you heat the bolt up, hit it with some oxygen, just blow the nut right off the stud. You don't hurt any of the threads, but the trick is you got to do it the first time. Otherwise, both pieces of metal heat up and now you just cut the stud off. So, let's see, I guess that's it. Yeah, and you can blow them out of blind holes, you know, doing the same thing. Like I mentioned on the cat engines, you know, you can just, you know, big cast head, you know, the bolts broke off way down the hole. You get in there, heat it up, hit it with some oxygen, you know, blow it out. There'll be some little pieces in there and you'll get in there and just pick them out. And that usually works pretty well. Center punches, as far as punching holes straight, I've got just your standard, you know, run-of-the-mill center punch. One I like to use to get things started is this little auto center punch. What kind this one is? A Snap-on, is a Blue Point, you know, automatic center punch. And this works pretty good. Has replaceable tips, but I just, you know, continue to sharpen it whenever I need it. And you can get up in there, you know, you kind of scribe around, find the center, and this is a lot easier than trying to hold a punch and, you know, use a hammer sometimes. I'll use this to make my first indexing mark, you know, get in there, click it, get it centered. Then I'll go back through with, you know, perhaps just a regular, you know, center punch and then give her the beans. But getting out broken bolts is just, comes with the territory here. So, I guess that's it. I hope that answers all the questions. If you have any more, leave them in the comment box below. I'll try to put some links down there in the description too to similar items. Obviously, you know, you can't get this stuff on Amazon, but this is stuff I've had for many, many years. You know, we often will buy it from the tool trucks because these are highly abused tools and it's just easier to warranty. The guy shows up, give him hand of mirrors, he gives you a new one, and, you know, life goes on. Of course, you know, like anything Snap-on, they charge, you know, 10 times the cost for it, but it is what it is, and that's it. So thanks for watching.